And we have all this great knowledge and all these great experiences. We just want to pour it into their little heads, and they tune us out.
Mm-hmm.
If you do active listening with them, they'll be so close to you. But if you tell them how to think and you interrupt them, it's very bad for the relationship, for the attachment. And then I have an exercise in the book that's just gold. I mean, it works. It's worked every time, I think. Parents who actually do it the way I ask, is 20 minutes a day with the kid. Do something with them they want to do. And during that time, no commands, no questions, no direction.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first figured it out, and then I just saw it work, and it worked, and it worked. My literary agent at the time, Carl, he called me up and he said, I'm having trouble with my 2-year-old. So he had a child later in life, and Laura was 2, and she's like, she never wants anything to do with me. And I'm like, you're ignoring her. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, do this. And I told him special time, 20 minutes a day, do something with her that she wants to do, which means basically sit on the floor and play with her blocks. And no questions, no commands, no directions. And he's like, that won't work. He tended to be oppositional. And I'm like, oh, great, you represent an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you need to do this. I'm going to call you in 3 weeks. Get the party started. And 3 weeks later, I called him up. And I'm like, hey, Carl, it's Daniel. Daniel, she won't leave me alone. All she wants to do is be with me. I walk in the door. She grabs my leg. She wants her time. Right. Because isn't that what we all wanted? I mean, unless our parent was awful, we all wanted their attention. And, I'm one of 7. So, my mother had to be judicious about how she did it. But because my dad was never home, we didn't have a relationship. And 1972, turned 18, he told me if I voted for McGovern, the country would go to hell. And because we didn't have a relationship, I voted for McGovern, and the country went to hell, but it had nothing to do with McGovern. It was because of Nixon and Watergate. And I like having influence with my kids, but there's no influence without connection.
There's different kinds of attachment also. I think that's very wise, and it's also very straightforward and doable. Like, invest your time in your children. Be interested in what they're interested in. When they tell you something, don't lecture them or tell them why they're wrong. Just say, tell me more, and be on their level where they don't feel judged or like you're going to, basically explain something to them, right? I think that's great advice. On the opposite end of the spectrum from someone like your father is the very enmeshed parent. That's a different kind of attachment disorder where they're overly invested in their child's well-being, and the child becomes a vehicle for their own self-esteem.
Right.
So they're projecting all of this emotional baggage on their child, and the child then is shouldering this responsibility to make their parent feel okay. And whether that projection is ambition or their own insecurities or their own dreams that were never realized, the child on an unconscious level is subsuming all of that, and that becomes problematic.
No question.